Danny Garnett.
Please join me, if you will, as we pray. As we come into your presence today, O God, we ask that you help us learn how to stop and be present in the midst of our very busy lives and distracted lives to those moments you give to us to connect with our families, our friends, our co-workers, and others that pass us by each day that may need our caring, encouragement, and support. We're also especially grateful for the schools and colleges in our state that nurture and develop the knowledge, talents, and skills of our young people. Thank you also for this time each Monday to stop and to be together as Rotarians. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Danny. You may be seated. Ed Greenleaf is going to be coming up to welcome our visiting Rotarians and guests. While he's doing so, if somebody at each table would hold up the card bucket, those funds go to aid our Alzheimer's research. If you have any spare change or dollar bills, if you please put that in. Thank you.
I was in Greenville on Friday, and I put in for all the paying for the garages are automatic now. So I put in a $10
Good afternoon.
and I ended up getting
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ed Greenleaf, and I'd like to recognize our visiting Rotarians. If they please stand. From Columbia East, Jim Hudson. Also from the Lexington Club, T.R. Parrish. If you happen to bring a guest today, if you please stand along with your guest, and myself and Robin Waits will be bringing the mic over to you. We'll start right here.
Hello, I'm Matt Kimmel, and I'm delighted to have my daughter Emily with me today. Emily is a recent graduate of Converse College and now is in her first year of pharmacy school at USC.
I'm Hal Stevens, and this is my guest, Cameron Runyon, Columbia City Council.
Hi, I'm Mark Sullivan. I have my guest. My guest today is my wife, Fran Sullivan, who is the director of music at our church, Northeast Presbyterian, mother of our 3 boys, and a Converse College graduate.
And I'm Crutchfield there. I have my guest, the little guy, Warrior Donaldson, and Warrior is currently a transition student who is president of Deborah. And matter of fact, he's an honor grad at Harvard and the West Point.
Jesse Bullard. I've got a guest with me today, Bobby Phibbs. He's a fellow Gamecock, University of South Carolina graduate with statewide insurance.
My name is Cliff Bodyford, and I have as my guest today one of our partners at site and company, Bill West.
I'm Charlie Kate. I'm pleased to have as my guest Wade Carlisle. He's a residential contractor and property manager.
Hello, I'm Glenn Ward. I'm very happy to have my son Trey with me today. He's on spring break from USC.
Michael Hall. I am with my wife Kelly Hall, mother of our sweetheart Lottie, and I'll let her father explain the rest.
This is Kelly Taylor Wilson Hall. She's an assistant U.S. attorney, and she graduated from Converse in 2004, first in her class. Okay, but she finished.
That's all it. Thank you everyone for coming today.
All right, thank you for visiting. To all our visiting Rotarians and our guests, thank you Rotarians for reaching out and bringing those guests. It's a pleasure to spend this Monday afternoon with you. We'd now like to turn it over to Wes Hickman for Health and Happiness.
Good Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Wes Hickman. I work at USC, and so for those of you that are here on spring break, I'm very happy today is the first day of spring break. That's our first note of happiness for the day. Some breaking news as I was walking in this morning, JT and Mary Gandolfo are the proud first-time grandparents. So that's very exciting. Other upcoming things. This weekend is St. Pat's in 5 Points, so for those of you who don't have anything to do on Saturday, come join me in the 10K and watch me struggle across the finish line. March 20th is the district conference in Myrtle Beach. And one other note that somebody pointed out was that the USC Lady Gamecocks won the SEC championship this weekend. For those of you that don't know, official hats and t-shirts are available at GamecocksOnline.com. And for those of us who are Wofford graduates in the room, Wofford plays Furman tonight in the Southern Conference Championships at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Be sure to tune in as Wofford tries to go to the dance. One other interesting thing is, as I was looking at today's program, being a Wofford grad, I was very familiar with Converse College and had spent a good bit of time there doing classes and things after college as well. And when I was in school, the mascot of Converse College was the All-Stars, and I think that was the same as some of the other folks here in the room. That has since been changed to the Valkyries, and so I was very curious as to exactly what a Valkyrie was. So I looked this up. It's not just a Tom Cruise movie. In Norse mythology, a Valkyrie is one of a host of female figures who choose those who may die in battle and those who may live. This explained a lot of my relationships with people and clearly the successful ones of those that we have here today. Thank you very much, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Wes. It's like Bizarro World. Our clock is gone, the banner's falling down. Thank you, ladies. We're now going to turn it over to Carl Roberts. Carl's going to spend some time talking about LeaderCast. Carl was an attendee of the 2013 LeaderCast that was held here in Columbia. Also works with Hainsworth Sinclair Boyd and played a key role in having Hainsworth Sinclair be a sponsor of this year's event. And he's going to share some of his experiences from the event in 2013.
Thank you, President John. As one of the people who has actually attended LeaderCast, I know a lot of us have not had that opportunity. I asked President John if I could have a couple of minutes to speak to the club just to talk about it as someone who's been there, because I loved it, and I wanted to tell you about that. The bottom line for me is I've been to a lot of events somewhat similar to LeaderCast. We probably all have over the years. For me, LeaderCast was by far the best one that I've been to. To me, it really isn't a class by itself. The speakers are absolutely excellent, and it's just an extremely enjoyable day. I guess two things I would mention that were important to me about it. One is I left it with a number of really practical applications that I could take away, which I don't always do when I go to one of these half-day or day-long seminars. I don't know about you, but if I can leave with some things that I can actually use, I consider that a worthwhile experience. And I left it not only with I think a better perspective and vision on what my role is as a leader in the areas in which I am a leader, I also took away a good handful of practical things I could do as I went back into my various leadership roles, and I found that very valuable. And I think that you'll have the same experience. The other thing is, it's just a lot of fun. It's a very enjoyable day. There are a lot of speakers. It's not a thing where you listen to one or two people all day long. There are a lot of speakers, and they're all excellent speakers, and they've all accomplished real things in the area of leadership and have real things that they can share that'll be useful, and there's a lot of humor involved too. A lot of the speakers are funny. They also show a number of videos that they made that are just hilarious. When I got home, I looked up a lot of these videos on YouTube so I could show my wife and send them around to some of my friends. But it's just a fun day, it's a good day, it's an enjoyable day, and a day that I think you will take away some practical things for. When I heard that our club was considering being the sponsor for LeaderCast, I was very enthusiastic about that. I think it'll be a good fundraiser for us, and I think it will be good for our image in the community to be associated with what really is a top-notch event. I also was very eager to have my firm, Hinsler Sinclair Boyd, become a sponsor of the event. I think that, yes, thank you. If you hadn't noticed. But, you know, like all of your organizations, my firm wants our name associated with high-quality things that will go along with a high-quality reputation. And I had no reluctance at all that this is one. So I think it's going to help my firm to be associated with it. I think it'll help this club to be associated with it. And I would encourage you to come and to think about who you can bring. When I was at the one I went to, I thought of quickly a half dozen people I wish I had brought with me. And I would encourage you to think who you can bring, business associates, your management team, clients, prospective clients. Please come, please bring people. I think you will find this a great event. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. And Carl and I attended the event in 2013, and there were about 4 or 5 other Rotarians in this room that attended that event as well. Hal Stevenson's one who's going to share some of his experiences with us next week. But LeaderCast ticket sales are going very well. We've received a lot of positive feedback from the group over the last couple of weeks. The goal by the end of March was to sell 300 tickets, 300 of our 500. We're approaching 243 tickets that are committed, and that's today as of March 9th. So the committee feels that we're ahead of schedule. We feel that we hit our March goal, and we've even extended that goal with the hopes of having this event sold out by the end of March, allowing us to spend April and May to focus on the day of events. The vision of LeaderCast is to build leaders worth following. That is the LeaderCast vision internationally. I had a wise man once told me, you know, when you think of leadership, you think of a natural-born leader. He said that's very similar to a natural-born athlete, a natural-born musician, a natural-born artist. But what makes the difference between a great athlete, a great artist, and a great leader are those who take their natural-born abilities and do the things that the others aren't willing to do. That's to go to the gym, to go to practice, to read books, to fine-tune the craft you've been blessed with to be better. And LeaderCast allows natural-born leaders to take that step in your leadership skills to make the organizations or businesses you serve in exceptional. Is John Bacon here today? John's going to briefly talk to us about a golf tournament we have coming up in the spring.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and guests, and I'm here to talk about fun. That's a good thing. I love to talk about fun. One of the really good things about LeaderCast is that has become our major fundraiser for the scholarship program. So that means we get to put on a golf tournament this year, our annual golf tournament, without a lot of pressure for fundraising. Isn't that good? So we get to have fun this year, and we are going to do a tournament that is just as big and just as enjoyable as previous tournaments have been. But we're not going to be beating everybody up the month prior for big sponsorship money. So that's the good news. But we are planning the tournament for April 13th. There will not be a meeting that day. So if you want to get credit for attending the meeting, you need to join us. And if you're afraid of that little white ball, you can come out and have dinner with us after the round of golf. But I don't want anybody to be intimidated by the thought of having to play golf for a few hours. What this is really about, it's about fellowship and the opportunity to enjoy your fellow Rotarians for a whole afternoon. And it really is, in my opinion, one of the most fun things we do as a club. So I hope you'll join us. Even if you're a terrible golfer, I hope you'll plan on coming out to play, because it does not matter. If you do not want to play golf, I hope you will come join us for dinner. Your dinner is paid for because it's your meeting day, so we hope that you'll come have dinner with us even if you can't be there for the golf. I guarantee you'll have a great time. April 13th. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And just to remind everybody, our club's webpage is ColumbiaRotaryClub.org. All that information, whether it's health and happiness or John talking about the golf tournament or a LeaderCast event, can be found at ColumbiaRotaryClub.org. Carrie and our communications team has done a great job putting the site together. Hal spearheaded that last year with his board. It's really taken us to the next level of being able to get information out to our club. When you go to it, if you go into it today, you can read all about Converse College and Betsy right there on the homepage. And on Wednesday, March 4th, which was Freedom Day for Jack Van Loon, Carrie had a very nice write-up and picture of Jack on Wednesday, which was the anniversary of the date he was released from prisoner of war camp in Vietnam. With that, we'd like to turn it over to Robin to introduce our program.
It is definitely my distinct pleasure to introduce Betsy Fleming as president of Converse College in Spartanburg. She began there in the year 2005. Betsy graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University with an AB in finance, received an MA in history and design from the Royal College of Art in London, and earned a PhD in history of art from Yale University. Betsy has served in administrative and curatorial positions at the Frick Collection and Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the J. Paul Getty Trust in Los Angeles, Yale University Art Gallery in Victoria, and Albert Museum in London. She has taught at Yale and Parsons School of Design. Immediately prior to her arrival at Converse, Betsy was executive director of the Gibbs Museum of Art in Charleston. An Aspen Institute Liberty Fellow, she has served on the boards of the Women's College Coalition and the National Association of Independent Colleges, and currently serves on the board of directors for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, the Charlotte branch, and also Blue Cross and Blue Shield of South Carolina. She lectures widely on creativity, art and design history, women, and leadership. And before I turn the program over to Betsy, I'm going to do some marketing here. I would like for all of those who have an affiliation with Converse, whether you can talk about it or not, to please stand and be recognized. And with that, I would ask the rest of the Rotarians to please give our president, Betsy Fleming, a warm Rotarian reception.
Afternoon. So if anyone ever asks what you can do with a liberal arts degree, coming from being an art history major in college to being a college president in South Carolina, that tells you there is a lot you can do with a liberal arts degree. It's just a matter of how open you are to new and different possibilities. So I'd also encourage you all who are hiring folks to be very open to those who may come from liberal arts or less conventional degrees, be they art history, religion, philosophy, as you think about what kind of opportunities those people with critical and creative thinking skills can provide to your workplace. One thing that is not shared in my bio, and it's something that I take for granted, but I'm actually a native South Carolinian. And one of the reasons I arrived back at Converse is because my mother is a Converse alumna, a graduate of the class of 1965, and she spends a lot of time here in Columbia. She's actually one of our state's public service commissioners. So in addition to rearing 4 children, she has continued to be very active, not just on the local but the state, and now on the national level in terms of utilities regulation, and I think personally does a great job for the state, and is certainly a poster woman for Converse. I thought I'd start my remarks in talking a little bit about Sweetbriar College. How many of you heard the very sad news last week that they had decided to close at the end of this academic year? I will tell you, I can't tell you exactly how it hit you all, but it hit the higher education world like a bomb or a brick. It was very sad for all of us, and I have to tell you, its impact is broad-ranging. I think for any of us in the higher education sector who are grappling with what is a dramatically and dynamically changing marketplace, for those of us in the women's college arena, and also for anyone involved with with small liberal arts colleges. It is really, it was a dramatic story and a dramatic decision, and I think in talking to my colleagues, everyone has said, well, I knew that they were struggling, but I didn't realize this was one of the options that they were considering. From my perspective, I think that where we go from here and the reactions that seem to range from Chicken Little, the sky is falling, higher education will be decimated in the next 10 years, to another perspective of Mark Twain, the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. I think the truth or reality of the situation lies somewhere in between. I do think, from my perspective as a 10-year college president, I'm one of the longest serving college presidents in our state right now. And I tell you, I sometimes feel it's like dog years, not just 10 years, but 10 times 7. So I've earned my stripes and what might be gray hair. But I will say it certainly was not a short-term issue that led to their decision making, and I think it'll take a long time before we know fully what were the actual challenges that they were grappling with, both on the financial front and the enrollment front. But I do think it's a wake-up call for all of those who are involved in higher education, for all of those who love their alma mater, who value their college degrees, to really be open and aware of the need for all of our institutions, from USC to Columbia College to Converse, to be responsive to changing demands, expectations, and demographics. Our world is rapidly changing, and for our higher education arena to serve the needs of this 21st century world, we are going to have to evolve and adapt along the way. Fortunately for Converse, we have been proactive and adaptive in reshaping our business model. I'll be as crass as to call it a business model, because it absolutely is. For long-term sustainability since 2009. We got hit pretty hard with the Great Recession, and so we started to work pretty aggressively to figure out how do we withstand ups and downs, changes in a very proactive way. At times, we've been grappling with some pretty dramatic change, and we've had alumni, we've had students, we've had faculty push back very hard in wanting to know reasons. But ultimately, we have dug into deep issues and data so that we know who we are now, in addition to who we were back 125 years ago when we were founded. And we also understand what is we want to understand how our relationship with prospective students, partners in business, those who are looking to employ college graduates or who are looking to enroll them in their graduate programs. We are very aware and having active conversations in what you all need to be successful in your enterprises as well. And Converse has not been afraid to make bold moves along this time. I think there's one thing that does characterize our campus culture. It's one of transparency, openness, active debate. But when we decide to make a move, we make a move, and our community steps in and embraces those sorts of moves. So where is Converse today? And how do we stand within this ever-changing higher education landscape? First of all, probably most of you have heard that we reset our tuition last year to $16,500. This was a 43% reduction of our the last year's sticker price. And next year, we are only all in, the total fee is $26,000. Next year, we've been smart enough in terms of reorienting that to increase the total comprehensive package by less than $500. And that's mostly tied to room and board. So we've been able to figure out how to keep our tuition flat as we continue to think about managing how we do what we do in a more efficient and most effective way to serve our students' needs. One of the reasons we did this, first of all, we took a long-term view. We spent about 18 months doing a price sensitivity analysis, a market study, looking at the trends of our enrollments, and we had a wonderful opportunity. The last of our small senior classes was graduating, and we had grown quite a bit since that time. So we could build a strategy based on recruiting the same number of students as we did the year before. So this strategy was not built on automatically seeing an increase in students. But we were able to capitalize on the growing enrollments and making a shift in terms of our tuition price. We had noticed that the middle class had felt priced out of a Converse education for the most part. And so we really wanted to respond to what we were hearing along those lines. In resetting this tuition price, we got out of what is called the unfunded institutional aid practice and award scholarships now that are solely funded through endowed and annual scholarship funds. So the funds that we offer students to support their degree are entirely supported by alumni, donors, graduates, people who support the scholarship funds for our institution. And it's really exciting for them to know that their dollars actually truly do provide a reduction in the price of college. We have seen right now, our enrollment on the traditional undergraduate front is up over 24% in the past 2 years. Last year, we did see an increase of about 15% in terms of new students. We were fortunate because we were hoping something like this would happen, and we just finished a new building project, so we have room to house them all. But I do want to mention, the traditional undergraduate student is not the only student at Converse. We have about half as many graduate students on our campus who participate in programs as far-ranging as a master's in liberal arts to an education program to a master's in music or marriage and family therapy. And in fact, we're really big on partnerships with other entities across the state, especially on our education front. Right now, our undergraduate students come from 27 states and 7 countries, and although 60% come from the state of South Carolina, so we are still predominantly a South Carolina institution. We feel that, and the one piece about the tuition reset that I'll share is we really became an innovative national leader in the conversation on value and affordability. So the number of colleges that have visited our campus since that announcement has been made has been numerous and very far-ranging, from New York to the Midwest to inside our state. The places that we have been asked to speak and present has been far-ranging as well. So this may be an interesting sea tide of change for institutions that think this is the right decision for them and their students. But this isn't the only thing Converse has been doing since 2009. We've launched quite a few new academic programs that have probably been as important to the enrollment growth as our tuition reset. We launched a musical theater program that is going gangbusters. Their first production was Legally Blonde, the musical. The second was Cabaret, and it is just a dynamic partnership between our classical music program and a very energized theater and dance department by young faculty. We launched a genetic counseling program, which is a way for young people who are interested in science, interested in helping others, but may not want to go the physical therapy track, the pharmacy track, the medical track as a way into being within that profession along a different track. We are, right now, we've just filed prospecti for 2 new degree programs that will launch this fall. One is in healthcare administration,
And we're thrilled about launching that undergraduate bachelor's degree program in partnership with 2 regional hospitals, Greenville and Spartanburg Regional Center. And then we also, our school, we are launching a contemporary music degree. So what was really a standard bearer of excellence in classical music is now growing to make room for contemporary music composition, performance, be it jazz, be it electronic, be it digital. And we had our first production along those lines, which showcased very classical operatic vocal performances with digitized electronic music this January. It was pretty amazing. What we're also doing is, come fall 2016, a experiential learning requirement, which means all of our students in every degree program will actually have to have a workplace experience for which they get credit for them to graduate. This is across the board, from the arts, which is going to serve as our pilot entity program this year, through business, economics, religion, and philosophy. And I did mention the arts. What's been exciting for me, the School of the Arts at Converse has really started to, has created a plan for a holistic rethinking of how they do what they do. Because there's a lot of concern out there for arts majors, and they want to be known as the place to ensure that creativity is a working, productive discipline for anyone who graduates from college. So it's a pretty interesting framework, and it's very exciting to see them moved into contemporary realms while honoring the classical, but also for them to be thinking about what is it a practicing artist needs to have in order to be successful going forward. Converse has also experienced great growth, and this was probably the lead in seeing our enrollment growth in athletic programs. We're the only women's college in the country that has Division II athletic programs. Division II programs really believe in a balance of the academics and the athletics. They can earn talent scholarship for monies for their athletic skills, but they can also earn academic money for their academics. But none of our student athletes are able to come with a full ride, if you will, to the institution. The growth, our soccer team were conference championships this year. Our swimmers and our cross-country and track student athletes are regularly participants in national competitions. We have an equestrian program. Basketball, we just hired a new coach this year, Beth Kuchar, who came to us from Butler, and as well as from PC. She's the winningest coach of any women's basketball program in both of those institutions' history. We also have volleyball, lacrosse, golf, and tennis. And next year we'll be launching a softball program, really by a lot of understanding the demand for that program among young women who are college bound. So we're thrilled about that news. We've built a lot of new buildings and done some renovations over the past 5 years or so, with a primary focus initially on student housing. So we built apartment housing called the Heath that is probably nicer than any recent college graduate would care to believe once they leave. And the students helped us in that. We also just finished the renovation of Pell and Dexter Halls, which are 2 oldest residence halls on campus, and that's where all of our first-year students reside when they first arrive on campus. Because of the growth of the athletic program, we completed the Marcia Gibbs Fieldhouse just this fall, and that is a stunning facility for our student athletes. And then we've been investing in technology, really thinking in terms of portal systems, software systems, database systems, so that we can support students behind the scenes with greater ease and through an optimal use of technology as we go forward. As we grow, we want to make sure our students have this one-on-one personalized connection to faculty and staff, and so we need to take the paper load off our staff in order for them to be able to have that personalized interaction. So all total, we've raised over $75 million to support all of this growth, the building projects, the academic programs, the athletic programs. And just this last year, we celebrated the 125th anniversary of Converse with over 800 alumni and friends. And we're able to sort of share this great news about our growth, our vitality, our dynamism, and to show our appreciation for what they're doing to support this institution. So we are thriving. So we are adapting and evolving for the future. We're not stopping there, though. I would say, I don't know if any of you noticed, I have a brace on my leg. I tore my ACL, and my assistant joked before I went off to ski with some other staff and faculty that she had hired a hit person to knock me out, to slow me down so that they could have a little rest. She was pretty embarrassed when I called her to tell her I had actually been hit by a reckless skier. So, but what we launched this fall was something called LEAD on campus. And it's looking at all of our policies, programs, procedures, in how we, from a student-focused and student-centered perspective, and why we're here for our students. LEAD stands for Learning, Enrollment, tied to the entire life cycle of a student, Access and Activation. As president, I'm only here to help give students access and to activate others in their support of our students. And then Development. How do we make sure they're well positioned to go forward in the world well beyond Converse as professionals, as really dynamic individuals? And we have a room that is scattered with some wonderful Converse alumni who are great examples of that. We're also seeing some growth in our adult and graduate programs and making partnerships across the state to help advance teacher education. We actually just finalized an agreement with Lexington I to help them satisfy the requirements for the new Read to Succeed legislation that was passed. So that's one example in your area. And we're also exploring international partnerships with other institutions. So we're an institution that is willing to adapt, to evolve, while staying really committed to what is at the core or at the heart of why we were founded in the first place, which was to provide educational access to women and other underrepresented populations who may not have access to a college education. I will say, and I'll finish with the notion that our greatest points of pride are our graduates. It is the students that drives all this work, and it's the success of our graduates in raising families, in having phenomenal career success, in being willing to take bold moves to evolve and adapt in their life story that really motivates us and that inspires our ability to recruit the next generation of Converse students. So I'll finish telling you a little bit about our graduates, those who are not in the midst of this room. Among our graduates is the first and only South Carolinian to win a Pulitzer Prize in Literature. A pioneering suffragette who was originally from Bennettsville, South Carolina, who took the train up to Washington, D.C. on a regular basis to help advocate for a woman's right to vote. A former Supreme Court justice in the state of Texas, elected public representatives, community activists, international human rights advocates, lawyers, doctors, educators, bankers, accountants, all of whom are often mothers, wives, sisters as well, and they all believe in the transformative power of what has become known as the activated voice, value, and vision of Converse women to make a difference in the world, be it their families, their communities, their workplaces, or on a more broad national and global platform. Among our younger graduates is a woman who is a UT public policy graduate who now serves the State Department. She has been positioned around the world and right now is in Baghdad. And serving in very valiant ways. She actually grew up in Gaffney, South Carolina, and she was the first person in her family to go to college. Jessie Pope, who's a member of the class of 2014, was a star swimmer, Student Government Association officer who was awarded a research grant from Steadman Hawkins, which is a very nationally ranked orthopedic firm, and she's doing that research this year, and then she'll go on to Duke or MUSC for a degree in physical therapy. Both institutions were willing to hold her place for her while she pursued this prestigious research grant. Another young graduate, Eleanor Johnson from the class of 2012, graduated with a BFA in interior design. She now works in Charlotte for Meredith Jackson, designing jewelry for J. Crew. She also owns her own Etsy business, which is quite successful, called Nellie Kate Design. So again, an art-related graduate who's doing very entrepreneurial or enterprising work. Among others, a chemist who now works at Contech, which is an important chemical company in Spartanburg, an accountant who just landed right out of college a job with PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, a Duke Divinity student, a PhD fellowship student in history at SMC in Texas. And that's just a sampling along with all the others that you know in this community. So I'll stop there to see if you have any questions for me. You can tell there is an activated sense of voice and value and vision of Converse. And I believe, and the graduates are a great indicator of the validity of this comment, you can go from Converse to absolutely anywhere in the world. And it's exciting to lead an institution that creates graduates like that. So thank you.
Betsy, two questions, somewhat related, but we spoke briefly about the relationship with Wofford College, and there's a lot of Wofford people in here. There were a lot of graduates 30 years ago, and I know it's different, but there were a lot of people that came to Converse for a year or two and then transferred to another school. Do you get much back from them? Are you in touch with them? Are they, getting to know the new Converse and becoming proud of it, even though they did not graduate from there? And then second to that is, how are you and Wofford combining in town in Spartanburg, and how are y'all working together today?
Great questions on both fronts, so thank you. In regards to your first question in terms of those who leave Converse and then do they stay connected, some of our most significant donors are women who did not graduate from Converse but have maintained those close Converse sisterly relationships, and that has stood them through ups and downs in their lives. And they have been very generous, not all of them, but very generous in terms of giving of their time, coming back for reunions, going on trips with their classmates, and being generous of their treasure to the institution. I will say, as all higher education institutions look forward, this generation of college graduates are transferring a lot, probably even more than what was happening back then, although it seemed like more. So we see students leave, and we bring back in students on a pretty active basis. So that being able to manage the loyalty and the affinity of those students who transfer to and from different institutions, they're much more mobile, and I think it does impair their ability to develop really strong relationships, not only with other students but with faculty. But I do think there is a value in a smaller institution because they can cultivate pretty quickly those close relationships with faculty, with friends on the hall, and with staff who support them. I actually just had lunch with my counterpart, Nate Samhat, at Wofford just a week ago today. So we partner quite a bit in conversation. He's still drinking from a fire hose. This is his second year as president, and it's a big learning curve. So he's really trying to figure out what his vision is for his institution. But we do partner. We're actually working together with the Johnson Collection in Spartanburg to hire a faculty member that we will share in the field of art history. And there are other partnerships depending on departments across the board. So that relationship is strong. Wofford has really committed itself to being deeply, and right now solely committed to that residential liberal arts experience for undergraduates, traditional age undergraduates. And as I mentioned before, Converse is a little bit more diverse. We love that residential liberal arts or residential college experience for our traditional undergraduates, but we have had students that work with them in tandem with them in graduate programs, adult programs, online programs since the mid-60s. So it's a different kind of community, in a different kind of learning community.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, I have two questions. First of all, thank you for being here. One relates to, I wanted to clarify, you said that you dropped the tuition to 16,000, and then the next year you went to 26, did I hear that correctly?
No. The tuition, just tuition is $16,000. All in fees is $16,500. All in was $26,000. So that includes room and board, fees, and everything else, parking, technology. So we have been able to keep the tuition flat at $16,500, and then we made an increase for room and board because that's really where the largest costs for us have been that are hard to control because we work with food service partners, we work with Duke Energy, and other things like that were a little bit harder for us to control on the inside. So we went from $26,000 to $26,495.
Of that 16,000, how much is each student? Because I know that the state funds private colleges, and I forgot the term used, but how much is that do the students get from the state?
It depends on the student. The state funding for students that all students are eligible for, whether they're public or private, are tied to Palmetto and Life scholarships, and it's tied to their GPA, and they're maintaining a certain GPA. On top of that, to kind of any student who chooses an independent college, and depending on their need, they also can earn money through a South Carolina tuition grants program. And that's up to, I think it's just under $3,000 right now, but it's a scale depending on need.
Lastly, this past week, Jimmy Williamson, who's our current district governor for Rotary, and is the president of South Carolina Technical Education System, signed an agreement, which I'm sure you're aware of, with Clemson and with the University of South Carolina presidents, so that students who get the 2-year associate degree from the technical colleges automatically transfer to Clemson or the University of South Carolina. What's your take on that? Does Congress be involved in that in any way, et cetera?
We do have matriculation agreements with different 2-year colleges in our country. I think that sometimes those agreements look great on the outside, but there's a lot of fine print in the as you read through it in order to fully understand what is the grade point average you have to keep. Do scholarships carry over? So I'm certainly, I'm an advocate of increasing our knowledge workforce. And we hear so often the number, we're going to be in need of 40,000 2-year college degree graduates in 5 years. The number is actually more than twice that for bachelor degree and higher graduates in the same amount of time. So we need to really encourage more young people who are capable to matriculate into college programs, be they 2-year, 4-year, and beyond, because we're going to see a real need within our workforce in the next 5 to 10 years.
What's your 4-year graduation percentage?
So I mentioned the transfer in and out. So our 4-year graduation rate is about 60%. But when anyone, and this is some of the challenges, if someone comes in as a freshman, they are 95% likely, if they stay for all 4 years, to graduate in 4 years. So for any of our colleges and universities in this state, that graduation rate completely negates anyone who's transferred in after 1 year at another college, or anyone who's transferred out and finishes in 4 years at another college. So it is, again, the transfer movement that's happened makes that rate look maybe less than you would like it to look for all college campuses. So I would add the caveat of 95% if they come and they stay for 4 years versus transferring out.
I have a daughter who's a Converse graduate, and I wanted to spend all that money to start with, but I'm glad I did. But you don't have the father-daughter weekends up there?
Well, we still have family celebration weekends, but as you know, the notion of families has evolved and expanded, and so we have evolved and expanded with our students, because we have some who have multiple families, some who have grown up in single-parent households, some who've been reared by their grandparents. So we still have a very wonderful celebration weekend at the beginning of May, and it's wonderfully attended, and I think it's a great joy for both the students and their families to be a part of it.
My wife, who always looked at the dollars, she said before she went, she talked to the admissions office, she says, is she going to finish in 4 years? She says, because I want you to guarantee me that she will. She says, yes.
It's really, I mean, it's amazing. We do not want our students to stay for 5 or 6 years. We want them in and out in 4 years. It's better for us, especially as a small college, to manage our resources and make the best use of our capacity. Yes, sir.
2 quick questions, which I hope you haven't already answered. What is Converse's experience with transfers from other, from 4-year coeducational colleges, transfers to Converse? And secondly, what is the percentage of your graduating undergraduates who go on to graduate school?
Great questions. Thank you. The experience is varied, but they tend to come to Converse and find it a highly personalized and customized experience where they are immediately welcomed by their hall, their roommates, they're integrated into organizations, and on the academic level, they have a special kind of first-year seminar track so that they can get up to speed if they may not be as quickly as possible, so that they can fully take advantage of the relationship focus that we have. And we do have a lot of transfers in. So last year we recruited just under 300 students. About 50 of them were transferring into Converse as sophomores and primarily juniors. So that is a big part of our transition in population. The percentage of graduates, so we put graduates and employment in your field of your priority field, full-time employment, in the same umbrella, and that is running for the last 3 years about 70%. It's really, we do a good job on the outcomes front. Yep. Yes, sir.
Did I hear you correctly that one of your new buildings is called the Heath?
It is.
And how did it get its name?
It is connected to one of our, a family of donors that made a lead gift.
Johnson?
Part of them are the Johnson family. Yep. Sure, one more.
I just have one question. Probably the best year of my life was not, certainly one of them, was spent on my junior year abroad program. I spent a year in Paris under Converse's program, which was the best in there. Can you still do that?
So right now about 45% of our students study abroad at some point during their time there. What we've done though is we have a Jan term, so fall term, Jan term, spring term. Students can choose to participate in study abroad programs through other entities, but we have a couple of formal agreements with international universities. But our faculty take our students, it's usually team talk classes, on study travel programs around the world from China to South America during that month-long time period. Many of them, it's the first time they've traveled abroad. Many of them do more than one during their 4 years at Converse. So it's really an opportunity for them to develop global awareness and to go abroad without maybe going abroad for 3 months. Some of those who get the bug end up doing a lot of do semester-long programs.
President Fleming, we
we have this in appreciation of you coming to spend some time with us, filling us in on all the great things that Converse College is doing. And we applaud you for what you're doing with your school and trying to manage your tuition costs moving forward. Thank you. Next week's program?
Yeah, next week we'll hear from another diplomat from the European Union. This time the French ambassador to the United States will be here to address Rotary.
Thank you. Great. Looks like Rusty has a special piano player back there, his grandson. So this should be a great closing, as Jim would lead us in My Country Tune.